Shabbat Shalom. We're so very, very glad that you're with us. Rabbi, hand me that bottle of water, that's yours. Oh, for you. Shabbat Shalom.
Hi, I'm Ruthie.
Hi, Ruthie and Heather. I think we met a long
I
time
think
ago.
we have.
Yeah,
You
we
do
had
look familiar.
We did something together. It was
Yeah,
fun.
your
I
hair
remember.
looks different. It looks beautiful. It's so long.
Changes.
We're starting. Now we can say Shabbat Shalom. Isn't it lovely when you recognize faces?
Do I need a CD?
It's quite beautiful.
Should I share it with you?
Share this. You may or may not recognize the amazing rabbi next to me. This is Rabbi Heather Altman. She is a JTS graduate. She is a force of nature. She is a spiritual director. And she's Rav Yoga and has created a prayerful movement fusing the eternal wisdom and power of yoga with the ancient and beautiful tradition of Judaism. I'm just grateful she's my friend.
Same. Same. Very happy to be here.
We're going to begin this evening on page 120 and 121 in just a moment. But first, a nigun.
Anikum. All right. La, da, da, ya, da, 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 ya, da, da. La, da, 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 ya, da, da. La, da, 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 ya, da, da, da.
Ruthie, how wonderful that you know that Elul has within it, well, it's a, oh my goodness, the English word. When letters stand for actual words, it is a
Acronym.
Acronym. Thank you, Rabbi. That's why she's paid the big bucks. An acronym, Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li, is an acronym for Elul, the month that we're going to celebrate as soon as that sun sets itself. And so that was just the most perfect,
I'm so glad.
as it reflects the love affair that we have with God, with our text, and with this month of renewal and returning.
So glad.
Is there anybody who has an honor or something joyous in the next month where they would like to come up and light the candles of Shabbat?
Ooh, stampede.
Well, I do, and I would be honored.
Yes, Cantor. How wonderful.
Each breath and each step of coming together for Kabbalat Shabbat, we are welcoming and entering a different zone than the rest of the week. And just as we're entering Elul, the character of the month and the time is a little bit different. It's a little more vulnerable, a little more open. In order to get there for Shabbat and for Elul, we have to create a space where we can rest, where we can leave the zone of work and weekday and enter a peaceful, safe, and restful place. Which reminded me of a poem that I'd like to share. Tonight I'm going to share 2 poems from this book. It's called You Are Not Alone, Solace and Inspiration for Domestic Violence Survivors based on Jewish wisdom. The author is Toby Landesman, who is a local psychotherapist from Chicago. And the poem is called Resting in the Arms of God. I want to be held and rocked back into myself, held in your lap, a gentle back and forth motion, gently rocking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth, rocking me back into myself, into awareness of how tired I am, how wound up. I allow myself to be cradled as a child, safe in her mother's arms. I sigh. My heart rate steadies and slows. A soft and subtle light filters through me, and I remember the light of God is my soul, and so I rest.
I invite you to rise spiritually or physically as we take a moment, our cup overflowing with joy and the sacredness of this day. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom tehillah lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher l'tzilat Mitzrayim, ki banu v'aharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shavat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinhaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashavat. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Page 128.
One of my favorite, you can have a seat, please, get as comfortable as possible. One of my favorite Friday night prayers is Yedid Nefesh. One of the reasons it's one of my favorite is because it is a song that I sing to one of my children at bedtime because his name is in it. Of course, it doesn't happen to be in it. I picked names for my children that are in Tefillot, in Torah. But my name is also in this one. Yedid Nefesh, for me, signifies the beginning of Shabbat. We are at the very end and beginning at the same time of Elul, right? Which is our signal that one year is ending and a new one is going to begin. It's a time of reflection and reassessment and cheshbon hanefesh, where we're looking at ourselves deeply, like a checklist, a moral inventory of our souls. And it requires awareness and presence and curiosity. And it's kind of a big task. And when, I don't know, at least the people up here, when we think about the high holidays, it can cause some feelings, right? For all of us. It's a production. It's a lot of showing up, a lot of people, family. There's a lot going on. In the midst of it all, we have a spiritual task of trying to, I'll talk about it more later, but to recenter, reevaluate, see where we are. When we welcome Shabbat, there's this theme that comes through of love. And Yedid Nefesh is about this welcoming Shabbat as a soulmate. Reminding ourselves of love and feeling love is really helpful if we're going to do some deep work, spiritual work or psychological work. That's what's going to help us get through it. So Yedid Nefesh, my favorite verse, in this Siddur that we have, it's in magic invisible ink. So I might have to sing it actually to remember it, but I just wanted to share a few of the words that I love in it. Okay, Hadur na'eziv ha'olam, nafshi cholat ahavatach. My soul is sick. Nafshi cholat. Again, it's not in here. If you didn't get my reference, that verse is not written in the Siddur. We only have one of the beautiful verses. So my soul is sick. My soul is ailing. It's kind of also in here like a longing for love. But what we know, not from this prayer, but from science, is that when our heart is hurting, our soul is hurting, our mind is hurting, we feel it physically in our bodies the same way we do if there's something physically wrong. Like we feel it that way. The next line says, quotes the Torah, El na rafana la, please God, heal her, bring healing. So we're welcoming Shabbat with love, and we're reminded of our aching, ailing, painful souls, and please heal us. And then even stronger, v'hit nasek v'hit rapeh, like we need strength and we need healing. All this is in the context of a love poem, right? Which reminds me that how do we find healing and peace? That's through love, and it doesn't have to be intimate, romantic love, whatever our notions of that are. It's the love, the connection that we can experience with every single person we greet, and every single animal, and everything that we greet. So Yedid Nefesh is this love song that brings us into how do we create that kind of safe and loving space for healing as we're facing some tasks of Elul. And we have all of Shabbat to rest and not have to worry to get down to this deep spiritual inventory at the moment. But I wanted to kind of focus on the last piece in Yedid Nefesh that we hear again and again on Shabbat, which is Sukkot Shalom, spreading over us this shelter of peace. And I'd like to come back to that more a little later too. But for now, we'll continue with the Yedid Nefesh.
Oh, I see. Yedid Nefesh HaRachman, Yedid Nefesh HaRachman, Meshohatecha, El Zonecha, Yarutz Atzecha, La 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 la, Yishtachave, la 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 la.
said before, but I want to say again how excited I am and grateful to be here today, especially with Ruthie and Cantor Shelley.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. It's true. And
It's true.
it is true. I try to stick to the truth. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to just look at a Siddur in a different way. You know, what are we going to see today? And every time I look at a Siddur or look at Torah, different things pop out. I don't know how that still happens, right? It just happens every year, every time. It's something else. I mean, sometimes I look and it's like, no, today it's boring, right? Or today it doesn't speak to me or whatever. But most of the time, there's something that just pops out. I should add, if I, or perhaps another person, would look at a Siddur or Torah and say, it's boring, that might be a sign to think, like, what's going on that I'm not able to see the beauty and diversity that's in front of me? I said it kind of offhand, but it really, there's a lot more to that. But that's not where I am today, thankfully for you. So today I looked at Lechadodi, and the first thing that popped out is, this is this joyous, this is a lookout for joy, right? We're like looking out for the Shabbat queen. We're standing up and going to the fields. We're like on the lookout for this joy, for this beauty, and for this celebration. And then one verse jumped out at me, which is, in this Siddur on page 139, the 8th stanza, Yamin usmol tifrotzi. Okay, so the translation here says, your space will be broad, your worship free, await the promised one, we will exult, we will sing for joy. The translation in the Siddur I was looking at home said, instead of Yamin usmol tifrotzi, your space will be broad, your worship free. So Yamin is literally right, small is left. It said, break out of your confines to the left and to the right. How often do we hear in a worship service, break out of your confines? Right? We're looking for joy. We're on the lookout for joy and celebration. And part of the key to that is being willing to break out of our patterns. See things, do things a little differently. So I wanted to draw our attention to that. We are being encouraged to expand, to release, to make ourselves bigger, to take up more space with the awareness of those around us, right? And to expand our consciousness and experience of the world. Breaking out.
We're going to break out.
We'll
We'll do verse 1, 5, 8, and 9.
Let's do the chorus from the past. Lecha dodi likrat kala pede Shabbat likabla Lecha dodi likrat kala pede Shabbat likabla Bor echad
Entrances to holiness everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence. We rise physically or spiritually for the Baruch Hu.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la. Baruch Hu et Adonai.
Top of page 148. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bivaro ma'ariv aravim b'chochma poteach sha'arim uvitvuna meshane itim umachalif et hazmanim umesader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem b'rakia kirtzono borei yom v'layla גולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור. ומעביר יום ומבין לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבים. Page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam.
Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavecha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher Elohim mitzavecha hayom ha'levavecha ושננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך ובביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Forgive me to the poet whose name I cut off when I copied this poem. I found it on Ritual Well, which is a website, www.ritualwell.org. And again, that acronym. My golly. Ani ledovdi v'dodi li. Adonai sees Israel, and Israel hearkens to the voice. Sharing a love for one another, fear of judgment is vanquished, solemnly entering this month of Elul. We know that the time of writing lies ahead. There is much which we must willingly account for, and our task can become daunting and scary. They're requiring us to bear our very souls. We trust that Adonai will fairly judge us, each of us admitting our transgressions, standing together as one before God, God who loves and cares for all of Israel, Israel who loves and honors Adonai. With open arms we say, Ani ledodivadodi li, love has arrived, Elul has begun. We turn to the Michomocha, page 158.
I like the woos. We don't get that at,
No,
conservative
we're
synagogues.
big into wooing.
Yeah, I like the woos. Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu is this nighttime prayer. This is one that's only at night, right? Help us to lie down in peace. We're reminded of the darkness that's coming. And usually there, I'm sure we'll have another beautiful melody that will make us feel so good. And sometimes that helps soothe us, but we also might forget that we're calling to mind danger. And we talk about Sukkot Shalom, about spreading peace, and we talk about Hashkivenu. And I would like to acknowledge that the fears of darkness are very real for many people. They're very real for many people in this room today, people who are watching. They're very real for people who aren't here because of fearful reasons or dangerous reasons why they can't show up today, or why they might not be able to access the internet as well. I'd like to open up in a minute if anyone else wants to name any other places or reasons why we would need to say a prayer asking for peace and safety, specifically safety from danger and darkness. Before I read another prayer by Toby Landisman on this theme. So going from the broad, beautiful, and it is beautiful, and it's powerful, and yet I'd like to just call to mind the reality of there's a reason why all of these prayers are here, right? Because they speak to us, they're needed. So maybe before we continue with it, if you have a couple words or so about a real fear, a demon, something that is on your mind or in the world, and something that you know. And then we will, what was the word that other prayer said? We might try to vanquish it, or at least be together in setting this protective field. Yes.
The housekeeping is a part of the Shema Hamathil. It mentions the request of God's protection.
Yes, yes, right. And so many things that we might need protection from, some that we might not even want to speak at the moment. But if there is anything that you want to speak or add, feel free. And we've all experienced this collective fear with COVID, with monkeypox, with violence in the streets, with housing instability, food and gas prices rising. Right? Yes. Yes. Yeah, people in Ukraine. Very dangerous. Yes. Yes. There's definitely the threat of destruction of democracy. Yes. So scary. So scary. How are we all going to just pay our bills and eat? Yes. Yes, the situation with abortion and Roe v. Wade, and we're hearing stories flooding, things flooding my feed about young girls and or even grown women whose pregnancies are already failing themselves, and they're going to go septic without medical attention, and they're being denied it because of the fear. So many fears about autonomy of our bodies and safety. Exactly. There is definitely fear pervading every area of our lives, right? And that does not make it conductive, right? To function, to heal, to connect. And that's why we do dedicate these times to be together, to be reminded of the connection, of our strength, of hope, and to create spaces of light. Even though, as much as we wish and pray, it's not going to magically make the darkness disappear, but it can help us be in the light from moment to moment. This poem is called Shelter Me. Again, it's by Toby Landesman from her book, You Are Not Alone. Help me, dear God, to lie down at night in peace and awaken me to life renewed. It is not the darkness outside and the night sky that I fear, but the waiting space of silence inside this place in which I dwell. My house is not a shelter of peace. Shelter me with your Sukkot Shalom. Please shelter me. Help me, dear God, to lie down this night in peace and lift me up to life renewed. The shadow of your wings, might they really replace this valley of death where I've walked alone? Oh, guard me as I journey to an open place, a sacred space where I feel safe and whole at home. Shelter me with your Sukkot Shalom. Please shelter me now. Shelter me, please.
And Rabbi, the reason that I love this tune for Hashkivenu, as Cantor well knows, is that it speaks to me, it lifts me up. And if it can lift me up, then I can lift you up. And if I can lift you up, then you can face these dangers with some kind of strength and resolve. So Thank you to Dan Nichols, who wrote this tune.
And I want to add in, while this poem, Shelter Mate, is found in Toby Landesman's book, it is actually written by Rabbi Cindy Anger. So I want to be sure to note that.
Especially because we know Cindy Anger, and she would probably be very upset with us.
I'm so sorry, please accept my tshuva.
Well,
Have a good weekend, everybody.
this gives us, I hope, the strength to begin a conversation with the divine as we rise physically or spiritually on page 164. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei ha'akol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'imahot, U'mevii Geulah livnei Bneihem, Lema'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah, Rav le'hoshia, Morid hatah, Mechakel chaim b'chesed, Mechaye hakol rachamim rabim, Somech noflim, Ve'rofeh cholim, U'matir asurim, U'mekayem emunato l'shenei afar. Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, U'mi domeh lach, Melech memit u'mechayeh, U'matzmiach Yeshua, Ve'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh, v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim ho yom yalucha, Selah.
Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
I invite you to take your own walk through the prayer book, or maybe just examine that which is in your heart. When you are ready, please be seated, or if you reach the words of Yehi L'Ratzon or Oseh Shalom, please be seated.
Shalom. Oh, shalom, shalom. Oh, shalom. Oh, say shalom.
Say shalom aleinu. Oh, say shalom b'Ramav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'ehu Yoshua. Seder Kriyat Torah LeShabbat, the order for reading of Torah on Shabbat, can be found on page 362, we invite you to rise physically or spiritually as we take our Torah from the ark. And Elohim Adonai
ואין כמעשיך, מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. את עמו בשלום, הרחמים היטיבה וצאנך את ציון. תבנה חומות ירושלים, תבנה חומות ירושלים. כי לך לבד בטחנו, מלך אל רם ונישא, אדון עולמים. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. אחד אלוהינו, גדול אדוננו, קדוש שמו. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים. ונאמר לפניו שירה חדשה, ונאמר, שירה חדשה, ונאמר לפניו שירה חדשה, ונאמר לפניו שירה חדשה. הללויה, 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 הללויה.
Oh, you may be seated. So yes, we have a special surprise. Did you all notice that that's not the scroll that's in our cycle, right?
Yes.
And that's because we're going to do something a little bit
Oh.
different. Now I found something so exciting, so beautiful. All right, let me tell the truth. Just tell the truth.
Yeah, well, I asked Cantor Shelley, are there specific verses which you would like me to read tonight? And she said,
I said anything she wanted. What I was thinking of was anything out of the Parshat Shuvah, the weekly portion.
but that's not what I was thinking. That is, yep, communication. Complicated. You know, Yamunus Multi Frotzi. Left, right, break free, break the bounds. That's what happened. Are you going to do the blessings? Yeah. Okay. So the other part that Cantor Shelley didn't mention is this Torah is not rolled to the part of the Torah that we'll be reading today. So It is here for honorary purposes, and I'll be chanting out of the tikkun. Yeah. Yeah.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaBarach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Vayechulu hashamayim ve'haaretz v'chol tzva'am. Vayachol Elohim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa. Vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa. Vayivarach Elohim et yom hashvi'i v'kadesh oto kivo Shabbat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim la'asot.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam notah b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Do you want me to do the Dvar now and then? Okay. Did anybody recognize those verses? Yeah. So these verses are found in our Friday night prayers 3 times. We do it in Kiddush. Vayechulu hashamayim va'aretz v'chol tzva'am. Okay. Let me just shift to my notes. This is what struck me when I was told that I could read any part of the Torah tonight. Any verses, not limited to a particular parasha. Because I was thinking about Elul. I had Elul on my mind. Let's start with that, so you know how I got there.
You could actually look at the paragraph before the Kiddush and see it.
Yes.
Right there in your prayer list.
And actually, what page is Kiddush on? Page 123? Yeah. I will do that also. I was planning on going through it, but it's good if you want to look at, wait, is it here? No, it's on 122, actually. Okay. So yeah, that can be helpful if you want to have it in front of you. Yay. So, Vayechu hashamayim v'haaretz v'kol tzva'am. This is the 6th day of creation in anachronism. Generous. Okay, in Genesis. The heaven and earth were finished and all their array. God finished, if putting a character in there. So the earth and heavens were finished, day 6, end of creation. Vayachol Elohim bayom hashvi'i melachto asher asa. And I'm going to use this translation for now. On the 7th day, God finished the work that God had been doing. Wait a minute, didn't God just finish on the 6th day? Okay. Vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa. And God, I didn't finish that sentence. 7th day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and God ceased on the 7th day from all the work that God had done. Vayivarach Elohim et yom hashvi v'kadesh oto, and God blessed the 7th day and called it holy. Kivo Shabbat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim lasot. And God blessed the 7th day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done. Finished, completed, ceased. Is the Torah repeating itself? The rabbis would always say, never every word has a, but it is a little confusing. Did God finished on the 6th day, but then God finished on the 7th day. So my mind went to this because 6 days of the week of creation, 7th day, Shabbat, rest, holy, blessing. And we're getting to the 12th month of the year. It's the wrap-up of the year. So it kind of, I wanted to think about, is there a parallel there, right, between 6 days a week, Shabbat, rest, holy, 11 months of the year, and then into this 12th month of Elul, Ani Lidodi Vidodi Li, we're focusing on wrapping up the year to start another year. So there's kind of this idea of like a completion, a finishing. And in both cases, there's a cycle, right? 1 week, 6 days, Shabbat, then the next week begins. And in the year, 11 months, 12th month is Elul, and then the new year begins with Tishrei and Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so one of the interpretations is, day 6, God finished heaven and earth, done. And the 7th day, instead of translating it as finished, the work, as it does here, some translations would say ceased, like there was a cessation. There was no work done on the 7th day. Was there, or is Shabbat itself an act of creation? Each moment things are creating. But do we want to understand that God stopped and that God was doing nothing on Shabbat? And then there's a really interesting question of there's a very thin line. That's 11:59 seconds. Everything finishes. And then, 12 a.m., new day. You think that's how it sounds? That sounds right? Yeah. So, sunset. Okay, yeah, I was thinking in terms of one of my favorite musical artists. But yes, sunset, we can do the same thing. But then the rabbis go even more crazy about when that happens and how to know when that happens, right? They didn't have a clock. You're exactly right. That is an anachronism. We work so well together. Just tie it all in. See, she planted that earlier. Instead of saying acronym, she said anachronism so that I could then do this whole thing about 11:59 o'clock when we really are talking about sunset. Okay. I love it. Okay, so one of the ways that the rabbis answer this kind of confusion is they say, well, God created everything, finished on the 6th day, it was all wrapped up by sunset or whatever that line is. But then after that, things were set in motion, so they continue on their own. If we think about on Shabbat, we don't create, right? The Torah understanding is no planting, no creating specifically. But it rains on Shabbat, and seeds grow and plants grow. And animals give birth and create whole new beings on Shabbat. And earthquakes happen, and there are separations, and there's seismic shifts, and volcanoes erupt, and wind blows. The world doesn't freeze. So maybe it's, God, however God existed at that time, or, stopped this act of creation. But then things keep going on their own. So maybe that's what it means. And what kind of makes sense to me is that if what's set in motion stays in motion, then I get why we move to the last verse that we read of the blessing and the holiness. We're just observing, being part of it, living in creation while these things are continuing to progress. Maybe that's what the blessing and the holiness is. Okay, so in Elul, we're doing soul work. It's different than Shabbat. We're not just resting. Not that Shabbat is just resting, but it's, like I mentioned before, it can be intense work if we choose to do it and how we, depending on how we choose to do it. It involves looking at our relationships, looking at everything in our life and seeing, and the idea is tshuva, returning, right? Returning to our pure soul. Okay, and here's what I spent all of my days trying to figure out. Why did I pick this? What is so intriguing about this? Because the conversation about ceasing and finishing and blessing and holiness, it's not a brand new. Rabbis have been talking about this for a long time, and we could have a lot of fun getting into it. But here's the seed of what was so powerful for me. So every year we have this task, and I've always imagined it, well, there's one term that was used about tashlich, when we put the bread in the lake, right? That it's really shalachet, it's shedding. That we're taking off the masks and the costumes. We want to let go of the things that aren't central to who we are. We might want to examine like relationships and our belongings, our connection to like physical things, and our behaviors and our patterns. Right? So like look at, is this really me? Is this really me? But the message I've always received, and maybe you've received something differently, but the way my brain got it is, I'm supposed to return to who I was last year, the year before. I'm supposed to return to this pure soul of who I am. But maybe it's kind of like the creation that once it's set in motion, it keeps going. Who our soul is, who we are, also keeps changing and evolving and growing. So it's kind of like, this isn't the right words, but like a moving target. When we have a task to return to ourselves, to return to our soul, what if we don't know what we're looking for? Right? Like, what if we have to say to ourselves, I'm not sure what I'm going to find of who I am, of where my soul is supposed to be right now. So I need to find the spaces and places where I can be safe, and I can be vulnerable, where I can be curious to see, this image I might have of who I'm meant to be from past, does that match with who I'm meant to be right now? So we're not necessarily returning to a point A. Right? So maybe we're ceasing trying to change, trying to arrange who we are, and spending this month of Elul observing, noticing, comparing, experimenting, tifrotzi, breaking free, turning left and right, and looking in different directions to see like what really matches and what things we want to bring in and which things we're ready to let go. So that's what I think the kavanah from here is today, that we have 6 days a week, 7th is rest, but there's this, what is the change? And now as we're entering Elul, how can we come to be in alignment with our true selves and true souls? And it's okay to not know exactly who or what that is. And whatever I find for myself this year is not what you're going to find for yourself. That's the beauty of a soul, every soul being unique, right? And changing and growing. And I'll say one other thing that I did not write down, which is, while we're doing our searching and trying to place ourselves and return to what's pure and authentic and true for ourselves in the context of love and community, the other people around us might be doing the same thing. But whether or not they're doing the same thing, they might not recognize who we find ourselves to be. And that can be challenging as well. It's like family assistance therapy. When one person starts to change, when one person gets into recovery, the rest of the family, the rest of the community, they might not like what it's going to force upon them. And that is totally okay. This is your own spiritual journey, your own task. So I just want to encourage that we take this month of Elul to kind of look underneath, to not be so judgmental with ourselves, not have an expectation that someone else set or that you may have set for yourself in the past. That doesn't mean let go of your standards and, become a hedonist. I won't put a judgment on that necessarily, but it doesn't mean to just change everything, but to know that you might be surprised by what you find, right? And that is part of just the beauty of creation, continuing to fulfill the promise of creation. Shabbat shalom.
thoughts turn to those who are in need of healing of body or spirit. Our congregation is thinking about Aviva, Lisa, Jody Ashenhurst, John Archer, Steve Barron, Joan Bransfield, David Burchett, Fega Sorbatchaya, Glenn David, George Dean, Sarah Khana, Bat Elisheva, Stephen Engelman, Eslin Garb, George Guth, Phyllis Goldblatt, Don Grandolfo, Harriet Grossbart, Ariana Jimenez, Leah Jones, Carl Colvin, Jeffrey Krause, Miriam Lyon, Gerald Marks, Aline McNichol, Jimmy Miller, Sharon Montesi-Garskoff, Irene Noper-Stack, Lois Pavilon, Gary Priest, Rich Reisman, Alan Sager, I beg your pardon, Alan Sager, Casey Siengo, Kristen Rouse Skinner, Tali Stein, Cameron Michael Taft, Avraham Ben Sivia, Edith Vosovsky, Yosef Raphael Ben Yehudit, and we make a beautiful noise and call out those whom we are thinking of now.
Mi shaberach avotenu, Abraham, Yitzchak veYaakov. Mi shaberach imotenu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Berachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your love. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. Mi shaberach avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak veYaakov. Mi shaberach imotenu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Berachel. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well.
I invite you to rise, page 374.
Odo al eret beshamayim, vayarem kerem le'amo, tefila lechol chasidav, livnei Yisrael am kerov. Hallelujah, hallelujah. It's chayim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomecheha me'ushar derachecha darchenu am v'chol netivotecha shalom. Shivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh, Chadesh Yamenu, Chadesh Yamenu kekedem.
586.
Lenu l'shabech le'adon hakol, latet gedula le'otzer bereshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, שלא שם חכנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך לכם הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
Many, many thanks to Rabbi Heather Altman, to the amazing Ruth Seidner, to all of you who make Shabbat happen. We could not do it without you. It wouldn't be the same if you were not here. And you definitely do lift me up. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people that I have loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. We remember Maurice Archer, Miriam Axelrod, Lester Bauer, Joseph Bernstein, Jesse Block, Natalie Bloom, Hattie Bonham, Hugo Broad, Howard Berman, Rosalind Dombeck, Wolf Ehrlich, Alfred Friedman, Benjamin Gelfand, Rosalind Goodman, Peter Gutman, Ezra Stanton Hurwitz, Jenny Karp, Rose Krause, Sumner Kreplick, Benjamin Marshak, Stephen Marks, Rose Reifus, Dora Schulhoff, Victor Solomon, Sophie R. Stigman, Siegfried Strauss, Alan Tellisman, Annette Urist, Elizabeth L. Weil, Anna A. Weinstein, Rose Weiss, Rose Whelans, Reverend A. Peter Whitney, Dina Gittel Wise, William H. Youngerman, and in Shloshim, Joan Leventry, and Diane Lucore. Are there any other names for Kadisha Tome? Jack? I'd like to invite those in mourning and those who are observing a yortzeit to rise first, please. And then those whose custom it is to please join them. Page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabba.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imeru.
Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach leolam omei amaya.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yiromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shemei d'kudisha
Brichu.
Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imeru.
Amen.
Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imeru. Amen. Oseh shalom imramav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imeru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all of you bereaved among us. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. Our closing song.
Well, I thought maybe we'd end with the words to Dodi Lee, since we started with the tune of Dodi Lee. to keep it all in the family. So if you turn to page 653, you'll find it right in the middle of the page. 653, Dodi Lee, my beloved is mine and I am my beloved.
May God bless you and keep you today and always as you embrace this day God created for you to resoul yourself. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Shalom.
shalom.
Thanks.
Oh, Shabbat shalom. Hey, let me know what's